What's up guys, it's me Cell, and I'm back again with another banger for the holiday season. I know I've been putting off this video for a decent while, but I decided to, just fucking make it. In the sequel to the original How Strong is Cell video, I'm going to discuss basically everything surrounding MrPerfectCell, which includes shit like Cell vs Gohan and Cell vs Deborah, along with some just general AP scaling if you were to try to put him into a versus wiki tier like solar system or multi-solar system or whatever. I know these topics are very controversial, especially Cell vs Deborah, so please try and just hear me out on some things and don't just run to the comments if you see something here that you disagree with. Who am I kidding? Some of y'all gonna do it anyway. So let's just get started. As we all know, Cell was not dead. His nucleus remained even after his self-destruction. He then regenerated into a super perfect form, as Cell puts it, as well as the Daizenshu, and I quote, vastly powered up like Son Gohan. Now, there are a few ways to take this statement. One is he got the same boost as Gohan, which does make sense, as Cell does seem to compare the degree of the power-up to Gohan's, as he does say vastly powered up, like he did. Or you could interpret this as Cell just getting a power-up like Gohan, rather than that power-up being to a similar degree, which I feel like that's not the intent narratively, or just looking at the word choice as I described earlier. Now, if Cell did indeed get a boost similar to Gohan's, that should mean MrPerfectCell should be superior to the likes of Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, as Cell was superior to Mastered Super Saiyan Gohan before the boost, and if they get the exact same increase or multiplier, then Cell should be superior after their respective power-ups. Cell being stronger than Gohan is also consistent if you look at it from a feats perspective, as Suppressed Cell reduced Gohan's ki to less than half with a single ki blast. Now, some detractors might make the argument that Gohan was caught off guard, but this is so not true for multiple reasons. One is that Cell literally yells Vegeta die before he even launches the attack, basically giving Gohan a heads up. 2. Characters in Dragon Ball can tell what characters are going to do based upon their ki, as shown with Yarja Goku vs Trunks. And 3, Gohan was literally trying to save Vegeta's life, so it'd make no sense for Gohan not to get there as fast as he can. And flight speed and ki are directly intertwined as described in Daizenshu 7. So, if Gohan is flying at his max, then his ki should also be raised to his max, further showing Gohan blatantly isn't off guard. There are also a lot of secondary sources that also reaffirm this Cell over Gohan narrative. As for one, the Dragon Book directly states that MrPerfectCell has power equal to or greater than that of Gohan's, which is also stated in Daizenshu 2, as in there, Cell is labeled the strongest being in a time period where an uninjured Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is a thing. And just to set this in stone, Dende in the anime verbatim says Gohan might not be able to do anything against him, and that Cell has power greater than anything he's ever felt before. And Dende has sensed a full power Super Saiyan 2 Gohan as he went full power versus MrPerfectCell earlier, as I described in part 1. Now, there are a few arguments people like to use to show Gohan is superior, with the main one being how Gohan obviously killed Cell with less than 50% of his power. But a lot of people don't realize that Gohan was being amplified here in more ways than one. For starters, it is stated in several different guidebooks that Goku was directly donating ki to Gohan. A lot of people debunk this by saying by power it means encouragement here, which doesn't even make sense to begin with, as Dragon Ball almost never uses the term power that way. But even if you do take it like that, Super Exciting Guy directly says that you donate Genki to people when you cheer them on, which would still show Gohan is being amped. This is actually shown earlier in the anime when base Goku gets encouraged by Vegeta and swaps hands with 50% Frieza, which is something even his Kaioken times 10 couldn't do. Okay, so With that settled, Gohan ends up defeating Cell and sends him to the other world, where we get into another individual, Pikkon. As some of you may know, Pikkon defeated Cell in 2 fucking blows, which makes a lot of people believe he is superior to Cell, which I too thought for a long time, but I did recently come across some information that suggests otherwise. In the guidebook Ultimate Battle Collection, it is stated that Goku did not surpass Cell until he started training in the afterlife. This means that Cell should be superior to Super Kaioken Goku, as Goku did not start his otherworldly training until after the tournament. This is evident as literally the tournament starts the very next scene after it's announced, as well as the fact that Pikkon says that it's been an incredibly short amount of time since he first met Goku. Now, this is all relevant because Super Saiyan Goku is a near even match for Pikkon, so obviously Super Kaioken Goku should be stronger than Pikkon, as well as Cell. But what about Pikkon 2 shotting Cell? Well, the counter is simple. Cell was just simply suppressed and got caught off guard. Which does make sense within context, as Cell was rushing base Goku, so I doubt he'd be going all out against him. This also doesn't make sense, or else Krillin would be superior to Super Perfect Cell, as in the afterlife he rivals Yamcha, who beats up Olibu, who's base Pikkon level. And if Piccolo, with 7 years worth of training, couldn't even surpass the Kaioshin, who is Cell Games Goku level, then I highly doubt Krillin, who's weaker than Piccolo, could close the gap with maybe like a few hours worth of training. There is also a guide that says Pikkon is an enemy superior to Cell. However, this can just be in reference to the suppressed Cell that he fought, which does make sense when used in conjunction with the statements I referred to earlier, and that fact that many guides can refer to suppressed version of characters without specifically saying so. For example, many guides say the Cell Juniors are equal to Super Saiyan Vegeta, despite them also being stated to be as strong as Cell himself, implying they are most likely referring to the suppressed states without specifically saying it. Cell versus Deborah. Besides maybe Kid Buu versus Buuhan, this topic is the most popular Dragon Ball topic to date, and there is good reason for this. There are some statements, well, a lot of statements, that say Deborah is equal to Cell, which is also something stated by Goku himself in the source material. However, this is not consistent with Deborah's feats, as Deborah is equal to or slightly inferior to adult Gohan, who is stated quite a few times to be weaker than he was as a child. So, the most logical way to make sense of this is to say that the Cell that the statements were referring to was Perfect Cell, not Super Perfect Cell. Which also does make sense from a narrative perspective, as Deborah is meant to show how much Gohan has fallen off, as he's struggling with an opponent he could easily defeat beforehand. And Gohan did not easily defeat Super Perfect Cell. Definitely not. As he had a long, extended beam struggle with him, in addition to needing tons of hyping up from Goku, as well as a shit ton of help from the Z Warriors, and even when he did defeat him, he immediately passed out from exhaustion. So even from a narrative perspective, it doesn't make much sense for Deborah to be Super Perfect Cell level. The guys also seem to support this, as Shin, who is someone who is Cell Games Goku level, is stated to be not too much weaker than Super Saiyan Gohan, who is a rival to Deborah. Meaning Deborah is also not that much stronger than Mastered Super Saiyan Goku, which makes literally no sense if Deborah was Super Perfect Cell level. Some people say Deborah could just turn Cell to stone, which probably wouldn't work, as Cell could just rip off his arm or head or wherever his spit touched him, which probably wouldn't even happen to begin with, considering Cell's massive strength and speed advantage. Okay, so this basically covers Cell's strength from an inverse perspective, but how about from a cross-verse perspective? Well, you could just say Cell is a solar system buster, as evident by the numerous statements saying he could destroy the solar system, but there are things you could use to get him higher. One being what the Daizenshu actually defines a solar system as. A solar system is described as a galactic nebula with innumerable stars, with that nebula being one of an innumerable amount in the galaxy. So that's pretty easily multi-solar system level, but there are calcs taking into account what the Daizenshuu defines a solar system as, and most of them usually come out to around multi-solar system levels of power, and I'll leave those calcs in the description below. And if you really want to be funny in Highball Cell, there are quite a number of statements that say things that Cell has infinite power or will destroy the universe, which is infinite, and therefore would require infinite power to destroy. Then you could maybe say Cell has high universal power as well as speed, since your ki and speed are linked, as I showed earlier. But in my opinion, I would more personally go for multi-solar system level Cell rather than universal. But if you want to say he's universal, go ahead. I won't stop you. Now, one final thing to note before the end of the video is Cell's massive pool of techniques. As we all know, Cell has the cells of all the Z fighters, among other powerful warriors, and as a result, Cell has access to all of their techniques. Now, it'll take too long to describe every single one of these techniques, so I'm gonna just list them all off in a speed round, and if you have any questions, just comment and I'll reach back to you. But anyway, here are all of Cell's techniques: the Kamehameha, Destructo Disc, Solar Flare, Gallic Gun, Tri-Beam, Death Beam, Special Beam Cannon, Multiform, Instant Transmission, Regeneration, Masenko, I-Beams, Psychokinesis, Barriers, the Spirit Bomb, and the Kaioken. And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I tried to make it the most well-edited one this far, so it took me longer than usual to make, on top of the fact that I kinda was lacking motivation for a while, but I got it out, and that's all that's important. Now, the next video is going to be on an old topic that I don't think is discussed nearly as much as it should be, because the more I looked into it, the more I realized how interesting of a matchup it is. Now, I'm not going to tell you directly what it is, but I will leave you with this, which should give you a good idea on what the matchup is. I'll try to have this out in 2 weeks from now or less, but until then guys, later!